Hey guys, today I'm going to be installing and reviewing Elementary OS. Elementary OS from their website at elementary.io. Elementary OS is a fast and open replacement for Windows and Mac OS. Elementary OS, it's notable for the fact that it has its own unique desktop environment, which is called Pantheon, and it also has its own unique suite of applications, custom-built applications. Elementary, the other notable feature about it is it's, let's say that it draws a lot of inspiration from the Mac OS, the Mac operating system. So I'm going to go ahead and pull down the ISO and install this inside a virtual machine. Now, one thing I want to mention is that on their webpage, you have the option of paying them for the download. You can tip them for the download, or you can enter 0 here in the custom field, which is what I did because I'm just installing this in a virtual machine to test it out. I've actually never really played in Elementary before. But for those of you that actually enjoy what Elementary is doing, you may want to consider sending the developers a little tip. And the ISO was 1.3 gigabytes in size, so not a terribly large ISO. I'm going to go ahead and run through the install here. This is the standard Ubiquity installer. The Ubiquity installer, of course, is the standard Ubuntu installer. So I'm going to choose Install Elementary. Alright, we have the options of downloading updates while installing Elementary. I'm going to go ahead and update the system while we do the install. We also have the option of installing third-party software for graphics, Wi-Fi, Flash, MP3. So this is where you get all your third-party proprietary drivers installed. This is where you get all your multimedia codecs installed. So you really need to tick the second one on. Alright, so I'm going to click Continue. And this may take a second. It may go ahead and pull down some updates. No, it doesn't. Alright, so the computer currently has no detected operating systems. What would you like to do? I want to erase the disk and install Elementary. For those of you that are dual booting or, what have you, you may want to go down here and choose something else and manually set up some partitioning. I'm just going to let Elementary OS have the entire 15 gig hard drive of this virtual machine. Alright, Elementary warns me that it's about to format the drive and write to the disk. Looks like it's creating a swap partition and then an extended for partition. Alright, time zone has been chosen correctly for me. I'm going to click Continue. English US has been chosen for the keyboard. I can type a little bit, make sure the keyboard's working as expected. Right, we need to create our username and our password. And we have the option of logging in automatically. I won't tick that on. I like to be asked for a password. We also have the option of require my password to log in, and that's already ticked on. We have the option of encrypting our home folder as well. I'm not going to do that in a virtual machine. Click Continue. And the install starts. This may take a few minutes. I'm going to pause the video. And the installation is completed. Now we need to click Restart Now to reboot the machine. Alright, and we've rebooted our machine. Let's see how long our freshly installed Elementary OS takes to launch. Alright, we got to the login manager really fast. Alright, let's see, it's asking for our password. Okay. And the Pantheon desktop environment loaded up rather fast. So I will tell you, first impression out of the box as soon as you log in, wow, it's a gorgeous desktop. Love this wallpaper, love the theme, love the transparent bar at the top, love the dot, love the icon set. I mean, even though it's kind of minimal too, I mean, there's not a lot going on, but a really slick looking, really polished looking desktop environment. And I can see why some people might say it's inspired by the Mac OS. Anyway, I'm going to go through the application menu and show you what is installed on Elementary OS. Alright, under applications we have App Center. Let's check out the App Center. Let's see if I can make this a little bigger. Alright, and we have your standard graphical package manager, or software center, if you will. You have trending apps, you have recently updated programs, you have categories you could search. For example, we could search through the audio category, and it would show us all the audio programs that are available for installation. So that is the App Center. I wonder if we could categorize this. Looks like by default they have every app on the system loaded up in these little windows here. Okay, there's actually not that many programs installed by default, but if I go up here and click this View by Category, we do get the apps broken down in categories. So we have accessories. Under accessories, we have our calculator. We have Scratch. Scratch, I'm assuming, is their text editor, their custom-built text editor. Yeah, it looks like your standard text editor. Don't really have any documents to open yet. Anyway, screenshot, of course, is going to be a screenshot utility. Takes a screenshot. Now under graphics, we have our photos. Let's see what photos is. I think this is a custom elementary app as well. I wish we had like an about information in the apps. At least for the two custom elementary apps, it didn't give me any extra information as far as, the name of the program, developers behind it, version number. So, right, under Internet, we have the Epiphany web browser. That's an interesting choice, Epiphany. I think most Linux users would much rather have something like Firefox or Chromium installed for a web browser. Nobody uses Epiphany. And let's see if we can get some information on Epiphany here. Of course, Epiphany is now just called Web. It's a GNOME app, and they renamed the Epiphany web browser to just Web, or at least that's the way it appears in the menu system. This is 3.18.11, this particular version of Epiphany. And we have Mail. Let's see what Mail client. Well, I'm not going to set up the Mail, but I believe it is Geary, or it is a fork of Geary. I believe the elementary developers are doing their own custom email program, but it's a fork of the old Geary email. Alright, under Office we have our calendar and no other Office documents installed by default. Under Sound and Video we have Camera for take photos and videos with your webcam, I guess. And then you have Music, which I'm assuming is your standard audio player. Looks like this may be another custom elementary OS app. Let's see, we have options to import to library, preferences, preference settings here. I have no music installed to play here. Even if I did, I couldn't play any audio for fear of being taken down. So, also under Sound and Video, we have the Video program. This may be your standard GNOME video player. Alright, under System Tools, we have the App Center, which we've already looked at. We have Files, which is our file manager. And I'm assuming they're probably using Nautilus. Actually, I don't think this is Nautilus, the GNOME files, the standard file manager in the GNOME desktop environment. I think this is a custom elementary app as well. So I guess they're doing their own file manager. They did their own photo app, their own music program. So again, they're doing a lot of their own custom stuff. We have options here for multitasking view. We have the system settings, which I'll look at in a second. Terminal, let's see which terminal application they're using. Now this is a really nice looking terminal, but it does not look like a terminal I've ever seen before, a terminal program I've ever used before. The theming and all, again, we don't have any kind of about information as far as the name of the program or version number or anything, but I'm assuming this is a custom built elementary app as well. This is probably their own terminal. So going back to system settings, let's open up the settings manager here. Alright, and under settings we have personal settings for applications. This is setting your default applications, you know, your default web browser, email, calendar, video, music, image, text editor, file browser. We have also options for desktop settings, language, notifications, security and privacy. We have hardware settings such as color, display, keyboard, mouse and touchpad, power, printers, sound, and tablet. We have network and wireless. We have administration settings such as about, date and time, parental control, universal access, and user accounts. I'm going to click the about. About. Elementary OS, this is 0.4.1 Loki 64-bit. It is built on the Ubuntu 16.04.2 LTS. We are using Linux 4.10.0, so the kernel is 4.10, and we're using the GTK toolkit, GTK 3.18.9. I'm wondering what kind of CPU and memory usage we're using. Let's see if we didn't have a system monitor of any kind installed by default, do we? No, when you start doing a search for system monitor, it suggests that we search for system monitor in the app center, so we need to actually install a system monitor if we wanted a graphical system monitor. Again, the ISO was only 1.3 gigabytes in size. Not a lot of software installed by default. Again, we had really nothing under Office. We had a calendar, nothing else. No LibreOffice, no Abbey Word or GNU/Numeric or any of that. Internet the same way. We have a browser, we have an email client, but we really don't have any kind of like chat client for like IRC or instant messaging clients or anything else, Dropbox or Skype or any of that stuff. I mean, those are not free and open source programs, but you know, those kinds of programs, we don't have anything other than a browser and an email client. So really light as far as programs installed by default. So I'm going to go back to System Tools. I'm going to open our File Manager again, but you know what? I noticed the File Manager is not down here in our dock. I'm wondering about the functionality of their dock down here. Am I able to drag from the menu to the dock? I am. That's great. Anyway, I'm going to open the File Manager here. Again, I'm assuming this is their own custom-built File Manager here. And I'm also going to open up their music application. I'm pretty sure this is their own music application. Well, it kind of reminds me of iTunes in a way, just the font and the coloring. I mean, it really has that Mac OS feel. But anyway, I wanted to try multitasking view. That's the first thing in the dock here, the icon for multitasking view. And this shows us, I guess, our workspaces, our virtual workspaces. So this is desktop 1, and if I click the plus symbol down here, okay, I guess we go over to a new desktop. Can I go back to this desktop here? Yes, I can just kind of click over, or I can slide it over, or yeah. Let me go back here. I'm going to drag the music player to the next desktop, I guess. Can I? Yeah. So now this is desktop 1. Oh, sorry, that was desktop 2. The file manager is still on desktop 1. Anyway, let me close that. Did that actually close the program? It did. And just checking out some of the functionality here on the multitasking view. Again, it's really my first time playing in Elementary. I think I have loaded it up once or twice before in a virtual machine, but I didn't look at it in depth. It's not really my kind of distro. For one thing, it's not very customizable. What you see is basically what you get with the Pantheon desktop environment. This dock at the bottom, I believe this is Plank, or is it? Let's see, about, yeah, Plank 0.11.3. Plank is a great minimal lightweight dock. Some of the same programs we've seen before. Did I open the photo app before? No, but this is the elementary photos. This is our own custom photo application. Let's check out some theming options, mainly wallpapers. I love the wallpaper they included by default. I'd like to see if they included some other high quality wallpapers by default. On most desktop environments, you can change your wallpaper simply by right clicking on the desktop and choosing like desktop preferences or something like that in a menu. But clicking the desktop in elementary OS does nothing. We get no menu of any kind. So I'm going to go back to the applications menu here. I'm going to choose system settings. I'm assuming we can find some kind of wallpaper setting here. Desktop is probably where it would be, and it is. So enlarge this a little bit. And for wallpapers, let's see, does just clicking on it change it? It does. Actually, I'll minimize this a little bit so you guys get to see some of this. But looks like pretty cool wallpapers by default. Really high quality stuff. Some of these wallpapers have been around before, though I've seen some of these in other distributions. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think most of these are Ubuntu wallpapers. I've seen these in some of the Ubuntu releases. So these may be the Ubuntu 16.04 wallpapers because elementary is based on Ubuntu 16.04. Ubuntu always has some really beautiful wallpapers installed. Really good stuff. I'm just going to go back to the default. We also had options here for the desktop for dock. We could make the icons normal. We can make them small. Oh, yeah. And I like that. I usually like to keep my panels and docks pretty small. We also have a large setting if you want the icons to be huge. And back to the normal setting. We also have options for the dock. Hide when any window overlaps the dock, so kind of an IntelliHide feature. Or focus window is maximized. Focused window overlaps the dock, not being used. We also have options for a pressure reveal. And then we have under hot corners, we can set the corners of the screen to do something. By default, all of them are turned off. But we could have, a hot corner to launch the multitasking view or maximize current window, show application menu, etc. So that's pretty neat that we have settings for that. Back to the transparent panel at the top. In the center, of course, we have our time and date, very reminiscent of the GNOME shell. And clicking it, of course, gets you our calendar. And we also have date and time settings here that we could launch from there. I don't need to play around in that. Then over here we have our system tray. So we have the controls for our music player and our sound settings. And then we have our network notifications here. We also have the ability to turn off notifications. We can slide this over to do not disturb, and we won't be getting notifications on the screen. That's cool. And then we have our session here where we can log out, reboot, suspend, change user. I really wanted to check CPU and memory usage. You know what? I'm going to install HTOP. So I'm going to launch a terminal. Now, in Ubuntu, launching the terminal is hotkeyed to Control-Alt-T. Elementary is based on Ubuntu, but they do not have that functionality to launch terminal with Control-Alt-T. So I'm actually going to go to the menu and open the terminal. Then I'm going to sudo apt install htop. And give this a second to install. Alright, now that we have htop on our system, I'm going to launch it. Okay, now we got some information. CPU usage is pretty low. We're using about 2% of the 2 cores of CPU I gave this virtual machine. That's pretty good. That's a That's really good CPU usage. Memory usage, 747 megs. That's actually not bad. I mean, it's not lightweight like LXDE or OpenBox or even XFCE, but it's just a bit higher than maybe something like XFCE. It is a little lighter than GNOME and KDE for sure. So pretty good on system resources. I like that. All in all, what are my initial thoughts on Elementary OS? Again, I haven't played in it much. Basically, what you just saw me do on this video, that's been my experience with Elementary. I haven't really lived in it at all. I haven't played around with it. I haven't really tried to do anything more advanced than just, basic functionality. But to be honest, I think this is where Elementary is geared anyway. It's mainly for newer users, people that want a pre-configured desktop. You can't do a lot of customization to it, but you know what? Everything just works out of the box. For example, one thing I wanted to mention was drivers, the VirtualBox guest editions. I didn't have to do anything to get this full screen resolution like I have to do in so many other Linux distros. Now, Elementary, again, is based on Ubuntu. To be fair, you don't have to do any of that in Ubuntu either. Ubuntu, the VirtualBox guest editions just work. So maybe Elementary, those guys didn't have much work to do for this, but still it's nice, when you show a new user something like that install process. Dead simple. The standard Ubuntu Ubiquity installer. You click OK about 3 times, and in 10 minutes you're done. And then, finding your way around this desktop, the Pantheon desktop environment, you got a dock at the bottom. Your grandmother could figure out how to launch a program from this dock. The menu at the top. Let me go back to the standard view of the menu as it is by default. Basically, they're not categorized anyway. Here's just a collection of all the applications that are installed by default. Anybody can work this menu. A little slider to get to the next page if you have a bunch of apps installed by default. And of course, you have a search field. You can search for something. So very new, user friendly. I think especially people coming from Mac OS, they would love Elementary OS, but even Windows users, I think Windows users would be right at home. Elementary OS, I think, has a place for, introducing people to Linux. I think a distro like Elementary goes a long way in getting new Linux converts, people that really are trying to get away from Windows and Mac OS, or maybe even people that don't know they need to get away from Windows and Mac OS. You show them something like this, and they're going to go, wow, that's really cool looking desktop. That's really cool looking computer. How do I get that to run? And that's a way in, that's a way to get them, hopefully, over to our side and away from the dark side. All in all, though, I'd give Elementary OS A as far as a grade. A on the install, A on the desktop. Check it out, guys. Peace.